Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Joey Barton looks set to make a decision on his career this week. Will it be a move to Rangers or a return to Burnley? Ray McKinnon is the new manager of Dundee United. He was unveiled today at Tannadice, and Celtic said farewell to Ronnie Deila, lifting the Premiership trophy, and they're all set for a new era with a new man in charge. We'll discuss that, looking back at the season in Scotland over the next half hour in the company of Alan Rough, and our bookroom guest, delighted to say, is former Rangers midfielder who scored quite a lot of goals, Gordon Smith, and we'll look ahead to that Scottish Cup final as well, because of course Gordon was involved in one of the Scottish Cup finals between Rangers and Hibs. It was over 3 games, possibly one of the worst games of all time. I don't think we're understating it, but nevertheless he played in it, and at the end of it you got a winner's medal.
Yeah, we did. It was a strange month. It's only recently I had to check up on it because I was doing a review of it, and it's amazing to think we actually had 9 games in that month of May, and 3 of them against Hibs in the Cup, and then even after the second replay, we had Hibs again to play in the league. So they talk about playing a team 4 times in a season. We actually played Hibs 4 times in the space of about 15 days.
Yeah, and the one thing about it now, Roughie, is Rangers won't have to worry about fixture congestion. They've been playing a friendly against Spurs, just slowly but surely working on what they have to do to try and make it a treble this season.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of having that wee break. I'm sure there will be some players carrying wee niggling injuries, and I'll just give them a chance to clear them up. And they should be getting into the game with full strength, which will be a positive for the Rangers manager.
Okay, what about the potential signings? This is the wonderful period in football when all sorts of names are bandied about. Some of them are just red herrings, some of them could actually come to fruition. Joey Barton is a surprising one. I was listening to Sean Dyche, the Burnley manager, saying he's not going to come cheap if Rangers are going for him. Is that the right way to try and strengthen the side? Will Joey Barton add something for them for the Premiership?
Well, I think he'll add experience, and maybe that's what Rangers think they need, particularly in the middle of the park. And but I was listening to the interview as well, and they're not going to let him go very easily. So I think Rangers, will have to come up with something. But the player looks as if he's going to be the winner in this one, with 2 clubs interested in him. I think he'll be hanging out for a longer contract. I think Burnley are just going to give him a year. So, I mean, Rangers have got the chance to take up. And the good thing about it is he's had a game at Loch Lomond at golf, so that's always a swear, isn't it?
Yeah. One thing I would say, encounter any of the back page headlines, Gordon, is quite simply someone suggested, oh, this is a sign of Rangers' intent if they're going for him, and the likes of another name that's mentioned, Nico Krankiar, which I'm sure you know very well. 1,000,001 players can be put forward in the back pages, but it's getting them over the line, and it's getting the right type of player over the line. I think Rangers fans will be holding back, thinking we're not fooled yet until there's a reality here.
Definitely. Unlike a lot of the situations where there'll be names mentioned in the papers, Peter, this is different in the respect of he was actually at the club. He was at Murray Park looking round it. He has spent time with directors. So in that instance, Barton is definitely on the radar for Rangers, and they're trying to do a deal with him. It might be crucial, as Roughie said, that the money situation could be vital here. But Rangers are looking at a player like that quality. To go out and buy somebody that's got that kind of level of experience would be a lot of money. So therefore, if they can get somebody like that on the cheap, which is free because he's a free agent, it could be a big factor. And they're offering him a 2-year deal as opposed to Burnley. Now Burnley might change that now and say, no, we'll give you 2 years as well. And Rangers might have to compete with that then in that circumstance. But I think if they see him as a crucial player, then Rangers will work very hard and probably try and emulate what Burnley have offered them wages-wise in order to get him in there.
Yeah, is that the right message that goes out? Does that not strike a real imbalance early on between what other players are on, and suddenly you've got a Joey Barton earning huge amounts and a Nico Krankiar that won't come cheap?
Yeah, it could do. I mean, there's always a scenario there that does happen when all of a sudden the teammates are saying, "Wait a minute, he's in a lot more money." But the thing about it is, you can put it down to the respect of at this stage, you're bringing in a player who's coming from a higher level than a lot of the guys who are obviously there and where they've been playing. So I know it is difficult at times, and you have to justify it. But I think that the club will just turn around and say, "Well, you get a chance to have a player like this in your team, it's going to help us going forward," so it might be justified in that respect.
It might be an indication that there isn't lots of money to be splashed out, because it's easy enough to pay wages, through the season ticket. So it doesn't look, maybe there isn't a pot there to go out and identify players to pay the hard cash for. Maybe that's the road that they're going to go down, that you just bring in people and excessive wages.
Yeah, over and above that, always nice to see a Hibs player out warming up on a five-a-side pitch with his mates ahead of the cup final. Jason Cummings certainly caught the headlines by playing about with his mates ahead of one of the biggest games for the club this season.
Yeah, it's a dodgy one. It just sums up. He's got a lot to learn. He's already did a couple of stupid things already this season. If he'd have got injured, I'm sure he'd have known all about it, and he'd have let everybody down at the club. So it's just, I'm sure Alan Stubbs will have a serious word with him, because it's a really important game for everybody coming up.
Yeah, just on that point, Roughie, how difficult is it going to be for Hibs to pick themselves up off the floor after that defeat to Falkirk?
Well, this is when it's all about individuals. It's all about individuals in the ground, in the dressing room. There will be players who will struggle to get their heads around it, but there'll be older players there. There'll be players that can handle it. Maybe a couple of wee jokes here and there, a couple of wind-ups just to lift everybody up. But I'm sure Alan Stubbs has got the experience to lift everybody. But they'll have to come into that game fired up right for the start.
They'll be a little bit down, because they would have been on a high if they'd beaten Falkirk, and the Kilmarnock game would obviously have been in advance of the final, albeit the Hibs don't have that to play now, and people might say they can get a little bit more of a rest. But if they'd managed to play Kilmarnock at Easter Road and got a good result in that game too, they could have gone into the cup final on a high, looking like getting promoted, chance to turn history around and win the cup after 114 years. They could have been really up for it. Now the scenario is that this is the game they've got to look forward to. A little bit of pressure. I know they're getting in as underdogs, Peter, but a bit of pressure now to think, we've had already a downside this season by not getting in the promotion battle, and if they lose the cup against another team from the same division, I mean, as I say, other years they might have got to a cup final and had to play against a top division side. These are two championship teams playing here, and it's probably Hibs' best chance they've got to win the cup after so much time. Yeah,
and the first leg of the Premiership playoff Thursday, Falkirk against Kilmarnock. The way things are looking, I don't think you would bet against Falkirk winning both legs.
No, I think they'll be in both legs. We saw that they're now coming out of their shell a wee bit now. They're now scoring goals from all over the park, and their confidence will be really high. And we just watched the Kilmarnock game at the weekend. They're all over the place. I don't even think they've got a settled side. So again, that for me, the playoffs will depend on how you start the game and who gets the first goal, because obviously if Falkirk get it, they'll be on so much a high. I can't see them getting beat.
Yeah, Lee Clark left a few players out, but it's interesting the fact that this is an amazing season with the playoffs, Peter, because you've got a scenario now where Kilmarnock would be bucking the trend if they actually stay up, because in every other division the team involved in the playoff has lost so far. East Stirlingshire at the bottom, Cowdenbeath, Livingston, and now Kilmarnock. So that would be 4 out of 4 would all be put down if Killie don't stay up.
And I think that could be put down to, again, the momentum, Roughie, of the other sides, who clearly have been in a winning run of form.
Yeah, I'm sure Peter Houston would be finding it very difficult to calm his players down after last week's result. That'll be the main thing for him, just not to be too overconfident, just get them back on a level playing field and treat the game like any other one, because it'd be a fantastic atmosphere even round about Falkirk. You could see the celebrations the other night there and everybody was enjoying it. So, you're right, we spoke about it during the season. Momentum will be a big player in this game.
Yep, over the weekend, here's how the Premiership fixtures all panned out, because They were played over Saturday and Sunday. We mentioned Kilmarnock there, losing 4-2 to Dundee United. Inverness hammered Dundee by 4-0. It was a share of the spoils for Partick Thistle against Hamilton. And then on the Sunday, Roughie, if you were a betting man, I think you would have lost your money. Ross County hammering Aberdeen and Celtic hitting Motherwell for 7.
Yeah, again, Ross County on their day, when everything goes well for them, they're a very, very difficult side, but I think the Aberdeen goals were just self-destruct, apart from one of them, which was a fantastic strike.
OK, we are going to talk Celtic and their championship, of course, winning the Premiership title, lifting the trophy, saying goodbye to Ronnie Deila, and now it's all about who the new manager will be. Welcome back to Peter and Roughie's football show. Alan Ruff and Gordon Smith are with me, Peter Martin. We're looking back over the season. The last games played at the weekend, playoffs still to determine who's coming into the Premiership. It'll be Falkirk against Kilmarnock for that one on Thursday and Sunday. And in between that, there's the small matter of the Scottish Cup final. Got to say congratulations to Queen's Park, Ayr United and Edinburgh City, Roughie.
Yep, Edinburgh City in particular. You know, these clubs have been working tirelessly, you know, trying to get everything in place for this particular day. And all credit to them, all credit to everybody behind the scenes and the players. It's a fresh team coming in, you know, and as you said at the weekend, another Edinburgh side, which will be good. And yeah, I'm sure they've got a big, exciting future ahead.
What a strange day it was yesterday at Celtic Park. Celtic fans paying their respects, I think, to Ronnie Deila. OK, 2 titles, League Cup, still not enough. And now the big question for them is who is going to be the replacement?
Yeah, I mean, and he was quite confident in terms of how he spoke afterwards. And you're thinking, you wonder if one or two of the Celtic fans would just make me thinking, maybe he could have done a better job if he got a bit more time, you know, because it was an impressive performance. I mean, Celtic, I mean, let's be honest, it was 7. Yeah. It was going on a lot more than that. And he put out a different type of team yesterday. I mean, 2 of the key players who have been over the season, Griffiths, who's got 40 goals, and Scott Brown, who's the captain, weren't playing. But there seemed to be a lot of dynamism about Celtic yesterday in terms of the effort and the work rate and the creativity. Yeah,
I think I've got that list of the Celtic fans you're talking about, Gordon, who all thought he should have got more time, and that's it extensively there.
I think maybe he should have tried it a wee bit earlier. You know, instead of leaving it to the last day of the season, give these young guys a chance maybe 3 months ago.
But he did go out on high because of that.
You don't seriously think we can read anything into a 7-0 drubbing of Motherwell on the last day, guys? Seriously?
Possibly not, I would think no. But the thing about it is, if everybody's going to say, you know, he's been a disappointment, the Celtic fans were expecting a change, but he did go out on a high. There's no question that in general, a lot of managers who are getting put out the door can't get waving to the fans and doing his Ronnie roar and getting the fans were chanting his name too. Yeah. And
I would chant your name when I was waving goodbye to you, Gordon.
But then he turned around and said, obviously, as you can see today, I have brought through young players. So he was using it as an opportunity to just tell everybody. You've got it wrong here. I think.
But less on the downside, he played Effie Ambrose, so come on.
Well, I'm no disrespect.
He didn't lose a goal.
Yeah, honestly, only you. On the last day of the season, suddenly the glass is half full. A number of PR exercises, I have to say. Forgive me for being cynical on it, but I think the Celtic fans now are looking and thinking, OK, let's see what your ambition is as a board. A number of managers have all been in there. They've all chatted to the chief executive this week. Undoubtedly, some of them will have chatted even higher up to Dermot Desmond to find out what the future holds for Celtic, because that's the great unknown. Everybody's talking about players that are going to be signed elsewhere, but Celtic have still to show their hand.
Yeah, and we're all led to believe that there has been a large number of people been interviewed already. But as you just touched on it briefly there, Rangers have stole a march. You know, Rangers are collecting the back page news. They're filling everything with players, whether they're there or whether they're not there. You know, there's something happening there. You know, the Celtic
Are you buying into that as well, Roughie? Honestly, this programme is turning into ifs, buts and maybes. Why don't you deal with reality?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is if it continues for 2 or 3 weeks that there's no manager put in there, Rangers are going to use every ability to steal a march, you know, and steal the press and steal whatever. So the sooner that Celtic make their intentions, you know, I think the Celtic supporters will be a wee
Do
bit
they hand
happier.
out PR cups, by the way? I just wanted to know, is there a spin cup that's awarded
But
in
you
the
know what,
summer?
like supporters are. Supporters love reading in the back. Wow, Joey Barton, wow.
Yeah. But Celtic, I think for the sake of Celtic Football Club, they need to get a manager in as quickly as possible, because he needs to alter the squad and saying, right, because every manager's got a different opinion on players too.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, some of these players who weren't actually great under Ronnie Dalla might be great under a different manager, because there is a good standard of player there. And I think, but see, when they've got European games coming up so soon in July, I think they need to get a new manager in quickly. Yeah,
and I think they will in the next week. The biggest difficulty, I think, for the manager is trying to offload the dead weight that's there. And the other thing I was going to say to you that I think is going to be interesting, Celtic today putting in the safe standing area at Celtic Park. I think that's going to be interesting and welcome. I think in this country, you know, regulated, certain amount of people allowed in there, creates a good atmosphere. People standing at football matches again, you know, with the right, you know, security in place.
Yeah, well, we saw what an atmosphere does to a game. You know, we've seen it abroad at Dortmund. We've seen it obviously at Ibrox. We've seen it at Parkhead, where there's a certain segment of the fans when they're in full flow. It just makes the whole game a lot better. You know, if it's nothing happening, you know, and they're in full voice. It's a fantastic atmosphere at a stadium that is full, and certainly standing seems to add to that.
The key word in it is safe, isn't it? Safe standing is what you want. We've seen what's happened in the past, and we've had sad scenario, especially from the Hillsborough incident, which we've been talking about a lot in recent weeks. So therefore, you have to say this has to be put in safe. But I'm sure that is being done, because it's in line with what they already have in, say, Dortmund, which is very efficient and creates a great atmosphere, as Roughie says.
Yeah. Okay, talking about managers with difficult jobs, we all knew he was going to be the Dundee United manager. Today they unveiled Ray McKinnon. If you're talking about a man who's got a difficult job getting a good team in the park, if we're to believe Mixu Patalainen, he's got an even more difficult job working out the toxic atmosphere in behind, Roughie.
Yeah, he has to buy over the fans. You know, the fans are the most important people, you know, and everything that's going on behind the scenes isn't going to help him, you know, but we don't know what his budget's going to be. We don't know what route they're going to go down. I would certainly like to think that he'd maybe go back to some of the people who have been released, you know, be John Rankin, you know, who I thought shouldn't have been released. I think he's still got something to offer the club down there. So it remains to be seen again with the manager. I think the Dundee United supporters will be sitting waiting to see what his first move is as well, but he really needs to get them back on board before the season starts.
Well, it has been interesting that they've improved since Mixu left in terms of performances and results, because they're also playing youngsters. I mean, young boy Matty Smith, I think he's only 16 years of age, came in. They brought in some other youngsters. And that might be a key to the fact that a new regime there can get more out of that squad of players than they've been getting out of them. So and they are down in division, Peter. So they could be a better side as a championship side, with a view to getting them back up than they were in the Premier League, as I say, because a lot to do with it is the manager is a key element of it. If the players are reacting to it and they like the manager and they work for him, you can get different results completely.
Yeah, okay. This is a period at the end of the season where suddenly a lot of footballers start to look and think, what am I going to do if I'm out of contract? There are a number of them. I mean, John Sutton's one, Scott Brown, David Goodwillie, Michael Rose, Barry Robson, Simon Church and Adam Collin. Two of them going back to their clubs because they were on loan at Aberdeen. Barry Robson, 37 years of age. He'd like to get into coaching. I think he's had a good career to look back on, Roughie.
Yeah, I think he has. You know, I think any club he's went to, you know, has been very pivotal in everything he's done, particularly when he was at Celtic. He was a sort of a Champions League player. You know, he always seems to come up with something special. But yeah, every club needs an experienced player like that. It just remains to be. I think he likes to stay in that area, doesn't he? That's where one of the reasons he went to Aberdeen.
Last point, we were all at the Scottish Football Writers Player of the Year Awards last night. Lee Griffiths, no surprise, Kieran Tierney, and of course the Manager of the Year, Jim McIntyre. The Football Writers decided to go in a different direction. He spoke well, and well worthy of it.
I think so. I think that, you know, there's a few people you could put up a good case for. Matt Warburton won the one with the PFA one, but I think that Jim McIntyre has done really well, because if you look back to even last season, it's a mixture of the two things. He put them in a great run that saved them from relegation, even from the playoff last year, a fantastic run, and kept it going this year, put them in the top 6 and got the first trophy in the club's history. So I think it's very hard to look at anything other than saying deserved, thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, and Matt Ritchie could be a good season for him. Wasn't able to make it last night because of Bournemouth, Manchester United, the fiasco at Old Trafford, Roughie, but he got the award as the international award from the football writers.
Yeah, I think he could be a big player in the next campaign. We showed just at the end what he can do, but I think if he was to get regular games, I think he could be a big player for us.
Okay, lots more to talk about this week. We'll continue the build-up to the playoffs. Falkirk taking on Kilmarnock, and we'll also look day by day at the build-up to Rangers against Hibernian in the Scottish Cup final. Tomorrow night on the programme, we're going to have one of Roughie's old teammates played for Hibernian in those halcyon days. Tony Higgins will be joining us to talk about his role with FIFPro and also give us his thoughts on the Scottish Cup final as well. Don't forget, you can join us tomorrow at 7. You'll get the repeat at 11 o'clock as well. Thanks to Gordon Smith, thanks to Roughie, and from myself, thanks for watching.